is Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
A very warm welcome to Pulse of African News. I'm Edo Masai and I'm thrilled you're here with us. Let's start with Ethiopia. The Chief Executive Officer of Ethiopian Investment Holdings, EIH, Brooke Taye, has emphasized that a strong rule of law and effective alternative dispute resolution, ADR mechanisms, are central to Ethiopia's ongoing economic transformation, noting that legal and institutional reforms are key drivers of investment, growth, and sustainable development. Brooke made the remarks while addressing the first international conference on the rule of law and alternative dispute resolution, ADR, for sustainable peace and development held in Bahir Dar. The two-day conference was jointly organized by the Amhara Regional Supreme Court and Bahir Dar University and brought together senior government officials, legal experts, academics, investors, and development partners. The conference focused on the role of justice sector reform, conflict resolution, and institutional trust in promoting sustainable peace and development, while also highlighting ongoing reform programs in the Amhara region and lessons from African and global experiences. In his address, Brooke explained that Ethiopia's recent economic progress is closely linked to clarity in policy direction and institutional reform introduced over the past 5 to 6 years. He noted that since 2018, the government has worked to resolve long-standing uncertainty over the country's economic philosophy by clearly defining the contemporary roles of the public and private sectors.
What the government has done from day one, since 2018, there was a clarity of thought. This clarity of thought was encapsulated first with the homegrown economic reform agenda, really identifying, let's not confuse ourselves or lie ourselves. We have a debt issue, we have an FX issue, we have an inflation issue, we have unemployment issue. This is a clarity of thought with a very simple four-pointer that was distributed under the homegrown economic reform. That was our initial starting clarity of thought where the government started introducing economic reform.
According to the EIH CEO, this clarity has enabled Ethiopia to better manage domestic and global challenges, resulting in notable economic gains, including the doubling of GDP and per capita income over the past 5 years, as well as a significant reduction in inflation. He stressed that such progress would not have been possible without foundational legal reforms that enhance predictability and investor confidence.
All of this, all what we're trying to do, unless otherwise the baseline is a rule of law, it's not going to go nowhere. So any work that you guys are doing, any new way of approaching litigation, new way of making sure that investors' interests are protected, there is a certainty, predictability. Because most investors, they don't care about what type of regulation that you put out. They want it to be predictable. Unless otherwise it's predictable, you can't put it in your business model, because if you can't put it in your business model, your return will be negative. If your return is negative, no investor is going to put their money in. So it's a very important and pertinent dialogue that's been happening.
Brooke highlighted key legal and institutional changes, including the comprehensive revision of Ethiopia's commercial code after more than 6 decades, the establishment of a capital market, and the shift in the investment proclamation. These reforms, he said, have reduced bureaucracy and corruption while expanding opportunities for domestic and foreign investment. While still focusing on Ethiopia, the Ministry of Health officially announced on Monday that Ethiopia has successfully eradicated Marburg virus disease from its borders, marking a historic milestone in the nation's public health journey. The declaration comes after the completion of 42 days of the post-Marburg surveillance countdown period, which is a prerequisite of the World Health Organization, requiring any affected country to monitor the situation of any viral hemorrhagic fever before finally declaring an end to the outbreak. This achievement stands as a testament to the resilience and efficacy of the Ethiopian public health emergency management system, which navigated the crisis with unwavering precision and grace. The announcement was made during the National Public Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Review Forum convened in Addis Ababa. Addressing the gathering, Minister of Health Dr. Maqdas Daba stated that this victory is the fruit of rigorous monitoring and containment strategies that effectively stifled the transmission of the virus. She revealed that no new cases have been detected within the last 42 days, a period representing 2 full incubation cycles, thereby confirming the total containment of the outbreak. The success of this mission was underpinned by a symphony of extensive vaccination initiatives, rapid response deployments, and widespread public awareness campaigns that empowered citizens across the nation. Dr. Maqdas emphasized that the seamless coordination between local communities, dedicated healthcare professionals, and international partners was instrumental in managing the health crisis and restoring safety to the public. In her concluding remarks, Dr. Maqdas extended her deepest gratitude to the frontline workers whose tireless dedication shielded the citizenry and the national economy from the devastating impact of the virus. The eradication of this severe hemorrhagic fever not only protects lives but also reinforces Ethiopia's standing as a leader in regional health security and emergency preparedness. The outbreak was first confirmed on 14th November 2025 in the South Ethiopia region. A total of 14 confirmed cases were reported during the outbreak, including 9 deaths and 5 recoveries.
In Ethiopia, more homes and businesses now have access to electricity. Access to power supports education, healthcare, and local businesses. Light changes lives.
Africa's efforts to meet its climate and development goals are increasingly under threat as a widening financing gap continues to limit the continent's ability to respond to escalating climate impacts. New data show that sub-Saharan Africa receives only about 25% of the climate finance it requires annually, underscoring a growing disconnect between global climate commitments and on-the-ground delivery. The funding shortfall highlighted in the Africa Climate Finance Tracking Report 2025 is forcing African governments, investors, and project developers to confront the challenge of translating pledges into bankable, investment-ready products. Despite contributing minimally to global emissions, African countries remain among the most exposed to climate shocks, energy insecurity, and water stress, while receiving a disproportionately small share of global climate finance. It is against this backdrop that policymakers, financiers, and project developers will convene in Cape Town from 24th to 27th February for the Africa Green Economy Summit, AIDS 2026. The summit aims to shift the conversation from high-level commitments to the practical work of structuring, financing, and implementing green and blue economic projects that can deliver tangible outcomes across the continent. As concessional funding declines and competition for private capital intensifies, Africa is being pushed toward more investment-led approaches and stronger project pipelines. Organizers say the summit will focus on understanding why capital flows into some African markets while stalling in others, and what enabling conditions such as regulatory, certainty, effective risk allocation, and investment readiness are needed to close deals. The Nigerian government last week opened the digital platform allowing ship owners to apply for financing under the Cabotage Vessel Financing Fund, CVFF. Authorities designed the program to promote domestic maritime companies and strengthen local participation in coastal shipping. Nigeria created the CVFF in 2003, but the fund remained largely inactive for nearly 2 decades. The mechanism aims to improve access to vessel financing for Nigerian operators, with total subsidies set at $25 million. The launch follows the government's decision to gradually end exemptions that allowed foreign vessels to operate in cabotage, a segment legally reserved for local companies. Nigeria represents West Africa's largest maritime market due to its population of 237.5 million people, the scale of its economy, and the volume of its oil and gas trade. If domestic fleet expansion materializes, Nigerian ship owners could move beyond national cabotage and operate regional coastal routes. Shifting to business news, Guinea's bauxite exports rose 25% in 2025 to 182.8 million metric tons, official data seen by Reuters showed, cementing its dominance in aluminum ore supply. A record 74% of shipments went to China, according to Chinese customs data. Guinea overtook Australia as the world's #1 bauxite exporter in 2023, said Fitch Solutions, BMI research firm, persistently posting double-digit output growth. The Mines Ministry data showed 23 companies shipped bauxite in 2025. China's Chalco led with 22.1 million tons, followed by CBG, a company majority owned by a consortium including mining firms Rio Tinto and Alcoa with 17.4 million tons. SMB, Guinea's first private bauxite exporter, and the largely Guinean-owned AGB2A/SDM joint venture shipped 17.0 million tons each. Exports slowed in the second half but rose 16% to 84 million tons. Morocco expects cereal output to exceed 8 million tons at the end of the 2025-2026 season, according to the latest industry estimates published in the Economic Outlook Budget (BEP) released by the High Commission for Planning. This projection would represent an increase of nearly 80% compared with estimated output of 4.4 million tons in 2024/2025. Moreover, the figure would mark the country's highest annual cereal production since the 2020/2021 season, when output reached 10.3 million tons. Authorities attribute the optimistic outlook primarily to improved climatic conditions in 2026. The start of the 2025/2026 agricultural season showed a significant rainfall deficit. However, abundant and well-distributed rainfall recorded from late November allowed the sector to catch up, which points to a more promising agricultural campaign. In addition, these favorable climatic conditions should help rebuild dam reserves and replenish groundwater, the BEP stated. Data from the Ministry of Equipment and Water showed rainfall between September 1, 2025 and January 20, 2026, more than doubled compared with the same period a year earlier. Moreover, precipitation levels exceeded the long-term annual average by 24% based on the 1990 up to 2020 reference period. finally, sport news. The Ivorian Football Federation, FIF, has officially announced a historic friendly match between Ivory Coast and Scotland, scheduled for Tuesday, March 31st, 2026. This international clash will take place at Hill Dickinson Stadium in Liverpool, United Kingdom. This match is exceptional in that it will be the first ever meeting between the two nations at senior level. Facing a strong Scottish team that has also qualified for the next World Cup, the Elephants will be putting themselves to the test on British soil. This match is part of the Ivory Coast's preparations for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. For the coach and his players, the objective is clear: to measure themselves against a European powerhouse in order to refine their teamwork and build momentum ahead of the big global events. That's all for this hour. Thank you for tuning in. Goodbye.